RFD-TV presents Gentle Giant with Pam Minnick and Katie Kaufman.
Near the Blue Ridge Parkway of Virginia at Copper Hill, we met Jason Rutledge, who is passionate about horses and the land.
That's right, Pam. Jason established the Healing Harvest Forest Foundation to support the use of animal power to harvest timber. And he is one of the oldest breeders of Suffolk Punch draft horses in America.
We'll learn about Jason's determination to improve this part of the world when Gentle Giants begins. Welcome back to Gentle Giants. Jason Rutledge grew up with a love of draft horses and has been a fan of the mighty Suffolk Punch since he first admired one in England more than 3 decades ago.
Suffolks I encountered in 1969 as a sailor during the Vietnam Era War, and I happened to be stationed in London, and I encountered a young kid leading a red horse up a lane. The kid was alone out in the countryside with this horse, and I stopped and asked about the horse, and I had never seen a solid red horse. He said it was a Suffolk Punch. And when I came back out of the war and did like a lot of people did, I dropped out of mainstream because I wanted to farm. I wanted to do what I grew up around, and I decided I wanted to have draft horses. And I got my first Suffolk by trading an Amishman as a colt, and that colt is actually present in the genes of all my mares here today. It's been 30 years since I've had that horse, and they're just so true. These horses have been selected for phenotype or how they behave for 500 years. So for a true horseman, they really express the epitome of heart, of try. They're very efficient. They're not a fancy horse. They're not flashy. They don't have a lot of chrome on them at all. In fact, they're actually conformed to have maximum travel with minimum motion. So they're extremely efficient, but it's the heart. It's the try over and over and over just for the asking that endears them to me beyond any other breed. I am a Suffolk man, and I'll be a Suffolk man until I die. There are many Suffolk breeders that want really small horses, and they have the claim of being the smallest of the draft breeds. But since I do heavy work, it takes weight to move weight. So I wanted to have my horses a little bit bigger than 1,500 pounds, and I like for them to average around 1,800 pounds because I do hook onto 3,000-pound logs every day that I'm working with them. Essentially, a draft horse is just moving against resistance, and these horses are given advantage by their conformation being efficient, and they actually can work harder, longer, and pull more than an average draft horse can, especially when they have that quality of heart. These horses are extremely sweet and docile and calm and comfortable with lots of different circumstances, and all of those characteristics make me dedicated to them, but I also want horses of substance. We do have a new stallion, and his name is Ike Sovereign. He was born in a little village of Ike, England. The man that bred him was the 15th generation of male to be born in the house he lived in. And today we have over 10 babies from him. He's doing a good job, and he's just starting to work for us. It's very important to us that the stallion also works. They have to prove their willingness to serve as a part of their right to reproduce, and Ike has done that. Horses are so honest. They tell the truth. Once you know how to speak the language of an equine, then they're going to tell you the truth all the time. And in this modern day, to have something that is that clear and that honest is so rewarding that I don't know how anybody that really knows a horse can't love them. I can keep them with my own efforts. You know, these horses operate on solar energy in the form of hay and grass that I capture and dry and preserve for them, so they give me an element of independence that's not available from anything else in modern life. So for me, they're about human dignity. They make me feel good about being alive. And that's where the passion comes from. I mean, if you're going to be alive, you should figure out how to feel good about it. And those are the best example. Those draft horses will give me everything that I got, honestly, just for the asking if I know how to be a good horseman. It's a challenge to bring that knowledge forward in a way that inspires young people to invest in it. And all I can do is be joyful about it, enjoy it myself, and hope that it's contagious for them. And for the most part, those are the people that I invest myself in, the ones that are enthusiastic about it, that do feel it, and that it makes them more alive to be involved with living creatures. And that's what I think farmers have always been about.
It's easy to see why Jason calls Suffolk Punches the best workhorses on the planet. Stay with us. Gentle Giants will be back in just a moment.
Welcome back to Gentle Giants. The trees here in the Appalachia, as they call it, are magnificent. And using Jason Rutledge's practice of animal-powered extraction of logs and worst first selection of timber, these forests can be sustained and restored.
When they buy draftwood, they know it's coming from horse-logged lumber and restorative forestry. It's basically the result of going into the forest and imitating nature and taking the worst trees first. And that's why the horses are a part of my work in the woods, because the horses provide a superior power source to extract logs with minimum impact on the residual, on the trees that we're leaving. Because we believe that the trees we leave are more important than the trees that we take. And if you practice worst first and go in on shorter harvest rotations every 7 to 10 years, the forest actually gets better very quickly. I prefer to only work in the forest when the forest is dormant. There are lots of other advantages there too. That's also when the market is best. That's when logs spring the most. That's when big heavy horses work harder, and the power that the horses have by using a modern device that we call a log arch that provides the operator a safe place to be up off the ground.
Jason shares his farm, philosophies, and lifestyle with his children Ashley and Jagger.
We'll be driving a team of big mares that we actually have been working with for a while. I drove them in a couple of pulls last year, and they're really a sweet kind. I mean, they're the biggest horses probably on the farm, I think, and definitely in the best shape right now. But they're just so easy to drive and easy to maneuver and control, and they're really good mares. I can't wait to see you work with them and go back in the woods.
This is restorative forestry. Our goal is to grow every tree to as old and as big and as long as we can, as long as it's healthy and productive. But we do need wood, and we do want to address human needs, so we've got to harvest trees, so we've got to offer an alternative to conventional forestry so that people can serve their needs for trees and for wood products, but still have their forests. So it's kind of a have your cake and eat it too situation.
It took growing up around it, because when I was really little, I remember being like, gosh, you know, this is so slow and so almost boring. I was just lost in it, and I wanted to go run and be a kid and be wild. And as I grew up, and every summer I kept coming back and seeing the importance of the work, and then going back to jobs he had done before, and really seeing the changes and being able to walk through just a beautiful forest and you know, see the great impact that was there. It's just something else.
We are going to be cutting this eastern white pine due to overcrowding. It's a mature piece of material that is also leaning, and it also has gum pockets and insect damage in it, and that is the reason why we're extracting this tree from the forest. Our number one concern is going to be safety of the operator. Our number two concern is going to be how we control the tree to protect what we leave in the forest, also known as residual growth. And our third most important aspect of why this is a superior timber felling method is to reduce the amount of damage to your logs in the falling process. Now, the basics of actually felling the tree itself, our first step is going to be what we call our aiming step and our lead notch. As you can see, this black line on the chainsaw itself is a sight, just like a gun. And so I'll be lining that up with the nice hole in the forest, making sure that I'm protecting the trees that I'm going to leave. That'll be cut number one, is our aiming cut. Cut number two is where we create the open face, where we create a horizontal face that's going to be controlling the degree of our tree falling to the ground. Step number three, we'll be using that open face as a horizontal plane and a place of reference to keep our cuts level. I will come around the tree, plunge into the tree, establish the back of my hinge on one half, and then I will remove 40 to 50% of the material from the front to the back. This is done from my danger side. At this point, I will move to my safety side, in which I have already had a 45-degree escape route cleared. I will come around and plunge, establishing the other half of the back of my hinge. At this point, I will plunge in, remove all but about 10% of the material in the back of the tree, check all of my safety routes, my high hazards, my low hazards, anything I'll trip on, anything that might fall out of the tree and hit me, and I will release what we call the latch. That is why we call this the open face, hinge, and latch method. And it gives us and allows us the control of deciding when and where this tree will fall and when it will fall. I'll go ahead and do that now.
One day, the culture of using these animals will be very necessary for human survival, and I think it's very important that we keep this cultural tool in the human toolbox for the future.
For nearly 20 years, Draftwood Incorporated has provided animal harvested wood to good architects and contractors. We'll learn more when Gentle Giants returns.
Welcome back to Gentle Giants. Folks around these parts have a passion for restoring and sustaining the land, and this led Jason Rutledge to form the Healing Harvest Forest Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to educating the next generation and to helping landowners earn a living with their land.
I have the nonprofit Healing Harvest Forest Foundation. That's a little 501c3 that we started in 1999 with the Ford Foundation grant. And the mission statement of that group is to address human needs for forest products while creating a nurturing coexistence between the forest and human community. And the subliminal message there is that the forest and the people are one. When you're dealing with a forest, you're dealing with things that have 250-year lifespans. So in order to be a part of investing in the future, Draftwood gives consumers a good choice. We work with our local industries. We sell flooring, we sell decking, we sell structural material, anything that can be made out of the trees from the Appalachian forest type, which, by the way, is the most diverse forest in the temperate world. And we produce Draftwood products of all kinds from the goods that we harvest in the course of our logging work.
We need more people like that. And it's inspiring. It makes me want to try harder and work harder and give everything my all and be true to my word as much as possible. And you know, it's inspiring all the way around.
The mountains of Appalachia, where it's difficult to make a living, and all we have to make a living with is our hands, our land, and our forest. And that's a part of why I chose to settle here. I'm going to live the rest of my life out here trying to improve the forest of Appalachia, because it is the best forest in the temperate world.
It's a lost art that we're not going to let be lost.
I see a lot of myself. I see where I get it from, but I've got horses in my blood on both sides. My mom was really into horses too. She was a steeplechase rider and stuff like that, and we can connect and talk about horses, and we can have exchanges almost like horses do without words. It's kind of a similar communication, and I see that bond.
In this small community that I live, there are several sites that I have harvested multiple times. There's one site about 4 miles from here that I have cut 4 times in my lifetime, and there's more timber there today than it was when I started. And it's more valuable timber because the trees that I'm leaving are the best trees that are growing the fastest and putting on the most clear material. So one of my goals in the way I live my life is to prove that you can, over the long term, make the most money doing this. So if I can manage to help young people learn how that they can make a living wage from doing the right thing in the forest, then my life will have been very much worth living.
I know for sure that I'm going to always have the Suffolks and keep on with the great breeding that he's done and keep good quality animals and good quality practices and stuff like that. As far as the forestry side of things, I'm still learning. Just now I've gotten to know how to run a chainsaw, but I can drive horses, and hopefully if I have my brother with me, we'll be partners and do that for a while. It's kind of magical in its own little world, and we kind of run on our own time sometimes, but we're rich in other ways than monetary value. We've got our soil and our forest and our food and everything that we do is really refreshing. It's a good feeling to be out in the woods doing what we're doing.
We want to thank all of you for watching Gentle Giants this week. Pam and I had a nice time up here in Virginia.
We stepped back in time, actually, and learned to improve the land. We want to thank Jason Rutledge and his family and all the folks in Appalachia, as he calls it. Join us right back here next week on Gentle Giants.
And in the meantime, you can always check us out on Facebook.
Bye now.